So, welcome to this final episode in the fortnightly Cambridge Marketing College series of webinars, focusing in on professional and personal development. This is the final episode of this season and a very topical subject: mindful leadership for marketing managers. I'm Neil Wilkins. What is mindful leadership? And how would this apply to marketing managers? And in fact, actually, most disciplines that are customer facing. Well, it is about empowering marketing leaders with professional and personal mastery, the skills, the tips, the techniques, and the ideas of being conscious and aware of the impact of both your decisions, but also your influence over others. For me, this is the holistic definition, if you like, of mindful leadership. And it's a really important concept because for most organizations, the idea of having leaders or managers or people in positions of seniority or authority and really not thinking or caring about the stakeholders that these individuals have is really missing a trick. But it's also not the best way to foster an innovative, an empowered and a collaborative culture. So if we can actually empower our leaders and ourselves with these kinds of skills, both professionally and personally, we stand a chance of leading from the front in an authentic, honest, transparent way for best impact and also then for best results, both for the organization, but also for the people involved. So let's go a little bit deeper into this idea of mindful leadership and how it differs from typically, I guess, definitions of leadership per se. Well, the definition of mindful leadership is the practice of leading with awareness, clarity, and presence. So those are three really, really interesting words to explore, and we'll be reflecting on these as we go through this. And as I share with you some of the thinking and philosophy behind this idea of leading with a mindful perspective. So awareness, clarity, and presence. Now, the origins of mindful leadership are kind of, deeply founded and go back quite some way. John Kabat-Zinn is a good example of somebody who's done a lot of research and a lot of work in this concept of mindfulness and leadership theory. There are many others who are worth exploring. But the idea really is to explore how these have become relevant, particularly in a discipline like marketing. And we see these things coming through really, really creatively and confidently in effective decision making, creativity and innovation, and really importantly, in the world that we're living in right now, both commercially and personally, resilience. So decision making, creativity, and resilience are kind of byproducts, if you like, from effective mindful leadership. So these will be things, if you consider some of the things I'm going to talk about, then these are things that you may well see improvements in. You may well find some tips and techniques that really resonate with you and for you. And so you can explore some of these things a little bit more deeply, and you'll see them playing out in the quality of your decision making, the relevance of your decision making, the amount of creativity that you find yourself stimulating, but also that you can inspire in others, and the resilience piece, how when the going is tough, and of course, this takes many shapes and forms, but when the going is tough, how you can exhibit resilience, how you can forge a confident and competent pathway through the challenges that the organization or the marketplace or just the world presents to you. So decision making, creativity and resilience. These are going to be three profound factors that, again, if you're planning at this time of the year, a lot of us are planning what's coming for next year. So if this is timely for you, then the idea here would be to think, okay, are there areas in my decision making, in my creativity and in my resilience that I could factor into my personal development plans for next year and beyond? So these would be, a nice way of kind of reviewing and reflecting on where you are now, but also starting to put into place some of the ideas and thinking that will take you into the future. Now, I would argue that mindful leadership is absolutely essential in effective marketing. We are in rapidly evolving times. The landscape for marketing and business more generally is we're seeing emerging technologies. It doesn't take me to tell you about the importance of embracing and understanding and working with and through AI, for example. Artificial intelligence is profoundly changing how we work. Sustainability, is coming into most sectors now at a very, very high impactful rate. And so we need to be figuring out how we can lead through both the opportunities and challenges that that presents to itself. And our customers, the stakeholders we have in and around our organizations, again, are changing at a rapidly evolving rate. So mindful leadership takes these things into account and then sees how we can adapt ourselves to really, really accommodate these changes and almost embrace change as being something that is an opportunity, not something to fear. That's at the core of mindful leadership and why it's so important in marketing. So the benefits that we would see if we did take this approach and if we thought, and reflected really effectively on mindful leadership, we would see an improved focus of ourselves and of the people around us. We'd see morale almost certainly increase within the teams that are facing the squeeze right now. It is hard. These are not easy times to navigate, and team morale, maybe in some organizations, is potentially at an all-time low. But mindful leadership allows you to craft ways through and out of those situations. And for all of us, the idea of having creative problem solving at our fingertips through mindful leadership is another key benefit of embracing some of this thinking. Now, Harvard Business Review, again, alongside a lot of others, have looked into this and have claimed that mindfulness increases leadership effectiveness by 31%. Now, I don't have the data to kind of say exactly through what facets or what particular elements of leadership effectiveness, but overarching message here is that it can make a difference. And it's all about increasing effectiveness. So if you can become aware of your surroundings, lead with authenticity, lead with transparency, and in a true collaborative way, using mindful leadership techniques, then your effectiveness will increase, whether it's by 31%, more or less. It doesn't really matter. This is about improvement, continuous improvement in yourself. So there are some core attributes that come into play when we think of mindful marketing leaders. Now, you'll almost certainly remember, if you've worked in a number of organizations or a number of different teams, or you are quite experienced, you will know as much as I do that there are certain individuals who just seem to have it. They just seem to be able to operate at a different level. They're charismatic, they are engaging. You want to work with them, you want to be collaborative with them. So what are they doing? What are they exhibiting? What are their attributes? Well, the first one is emotional intelligence. This is something that shows that they have true empathy with those around them. They have a natural ability or a learned ability, because arguably it can be learned, to really work with and from the perspective of others. That is a core attribute of mindful marketing leadership. Strategic thinking as well. So not just facing and meeting up with the tactical challenges of the everyday, but always having one eye on the future, leading, not managing. This is a very different perspective of being in a position of authority. Leading, in other words, being there at the forefront. We're going to look a little bit in a minute about the kind of, setting the scene, setting the precedent, if you like, and then being there to drive this forward by leading, not by pushing, not by bossing, not by managing, but by leading. That's the strategic thinking coming into play. Always one eye on the future, as well as meeting the tasks that are presenting themselves today. Another core attribute is adaptability, and alongside that, resilience. We talked about this already, but this whole idea of adaptability within resilience is all about almost meeting change as a natural entity that is going to be happening whether we like it or not, and embracing it, welcoming it, letting it come in through the door and saying, okay, there is no normal, there is no predictable to an nth degree. We have to take this whole kind of uncertain world that we live in as a positive, because inside those uncertainties are things that maybe we can uncover. Maybe there's improvement opportunities. So there is an opportunity to grow. So adaptability and resilience for a mindful leader is all about the opportunity for growth. And visionary leadership, the four of the core attributes, the fourth one, visionary leadership. In other words, having a common and a higher purpose and working to that, not just dealing with objectives, smart goals, KPIs. I mean, yes, doing all those things, but actually for a reason, for a higher meaning. So actually being more visionary, and kind of for some of us, visionary, oh my goodness, well, that's the kind of the Steve Jobs of this world, where, they really are kind of visionary leaders, where they're kind of working almost sort of a decade or beyond outside of our kind of visible horizon. We're not necessarily talking about that. This can be at a very local level. Just having that vision, that clarity of why we're doing something, not just the what we're doing. That's really important. And to me, probably one of the most significant attributes of a mindful marketing leader. So let's go into some of these in a little bit more detail. This first one, emotional intelligence, this whole empathy, having self-awareness and empathy in kind of equal measure is such a powerful attribute of an effective leader. Understanding the personal triggers, both of yourself, but also of others, giving time to listen. Okay, giving time to listen, but actively listen, not paying lip service to listening, but actually being present, reflecting on your own situation, scenario, feelings, and actually meeting them where they are, not judging. Self-awareness and empathy, connecting with team and audience needs, is all about meeting things where they are without judgment and taking them for truly what they are, and really listening to the nuances and the details and the kind of constituent parts behind a particular issue or challenge, and listening authentically and actively. Simon Sinek said that leadership is not about being in charge, it's about taking care of those in your charge. That's a beautiful way of kind of positioning this. The reason why you're leading, and remember that role, it's not managing, it's leading. The reason why you're leading is because you have the capability of looking after those in your charge, those in your care, taking care of them. And just that word care, it's actually about caring, because and you know intuitively that this is true, is that if you care about something, then you respect it, you honor it, you meet it where it is. And then the response you're going to get from that thing, that object, that person, that situation is going to be so much more aligned with the things that you can offer it of value to solve it. So emotional intelligence in leadership is key. The role of vision in mindful leadership as well is important. Defining a clear, inspiring vision for the team, for those in your care, for those you are leading, and balancing long-term goals, strategic, with short-term marketing tactics, the stuff you're doing today. I find myself saying this a lot. I find myself almost preaching this and evangelizing this idea of having one eye on the now and one eye on the future. It just feels, and I see so many examples of where this plays out positively, it just feels the right kind of balance. You can, if your preference is to live in the future, just be a strategist. Don't worry about caring and working with others in the short term. That's fine. Not here to judge. And if you find that actually you don't have a preference for being visionary or leading or being out there, then it is fine to be the tactical doer, the person who takes the actions in the immediate real time, and really showing less kind of impetus, if you like, to be at the forefront of what is coming next. The world needs both, and the world needs also these visionary leaders. The example obviously being Steve Jobs and the launch of the iPhone, where the world didn't even realize it needed the iPhone, but a visionary leader like Steve Jobs able to bring into the human consciousness the value of this thing that he imagined. And then obviously he and his team then created this incredible thing that has literally changed the world. So it's not about judging and saying, I'm good at this or I'm not good at that. It's about understanding that this is an opportunity available to us should we choose to take it, either on board as a learning experience or maybe just fine tuning some of those innate skills that we already have. So what are the professional skills? What are the key things that you should be exhibiting and actually trying to work to develop if this is something that you're thinking, this kind of sounds interesting. I'd like to kind of work towards something like this. Well, the first one I would say would be data-driven decision making. Effective leaders, mindful leaders, are ones who are very, very in tune with the analysis and evaluation of actually what's going on. So they're watching the trends. Everything they're doing is based on data, not necessarily numbers, but evidence and insights and the evaluation of those things. They're not just shooting from the hip and saying, I think we should do this, and my vision says this, so therefore I'm going to follow my gut instinct. That's very, very hard to get other people on board with unless you are the most charismatic person on the planet. For most of us, we wouldn't really trust that because the evidence foundationally is not strong enough. But match that with some evidence, some trends, some analysis that's been evaluated, and you have a potent cocktail for getting people on board. So trend spotting is key, especially in emerging technologies like AI and metaverse. And as I mentioned before, the eco footprint, your carbon footprint and sustainability, those trends are key. So your professional skills really should be aligned with developing an awareness and a response to those opportunities. And another professional skill that I would say goes into this mix is effective communication, more generally, being able to tell your story, and actually the storytelling from the perspective of the audience, be they internal, be they close around your organization, or be customers. It could be anybody. Any audience is going to be influenced and really impacted and enticed by effective storytelling. So those to me would be three key professional skills to really be thinking about. And so alongside those personal attributes which help you to cultivate those professional skills could be things like, I've already talked about active listening, but it could also be patience and focus. And particularly when you're looking at a high stake environment, so you're looking at getting your team on board, or you're looking to influence the management team or the C-suite. Patience and focus is absolutely key. Knowing that probably one presentation is not going to crack it, knowing that maybe this month we're not going to get to where we need to be, but actually the cumulative effect of the coming months, if you're on a plan of action, may well deliver. So the ability as well, in the light of that, to remain calm and present under pressure is a really key personal attribute to cultivate. A lot of us will be right now facing stressful environments. That doesn't necessarily mean they are stressy or we are stressed. We have a choice, and we do fundamentally have a choice to develop the skills and the resilience and the adaptability and the welcoming of change to be able to remain calm and present under pressure, the pressure of those stressful moments or environments. We have the ability to do it. We are not designed to be stressed as human beings. So therefore, we can reverse engineer back to a calm, authoritative, confident, competent state. So those would be things to maybe put in your list of things to be kind to yourself over the coming Christmas holidays and into the new year. Maybe start to read, maybe start to listen to podcasts, or start to explore the kinds of tools and techniques that we're talking about here. The best way to capture moments is to pay attention. John Kabat-Zinn again. This is how we cultivate mindfulness. So it is going to take an investment. You can't just listen to this little talk and then say, hey, I've nailed it. I've got it. I understand. I'm now going to do it. We have to see this as part of a personal development plan. Some of these areas you may think, I've got some work to do. And then that's great. Some of the areas you may think, yeah, I'm pretty competent in that. But also you might then challenge and say, but I could be even better. I could even go to world class, or I could be absolutely exemplary. No matter what level you're starting from, ground zero or highly experienced and competent, there's always room for improvement. So these personal attributes to cultivate are going to be really strong. Now, what I'm saying here, one word that is cropped up in many different guises so far in this talk has been this word resilience. Developing resilience as a leader is really one of the key themes, if you like, that kind of rolls through as a thread through this whole conversation of mindful leadership. And it's recognizing failure as a stepping stone to success. That's at the core of resilience. It's reflecting. It's having feedback loops. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and being super honest with what you see and hear. It's practicing mindful exercises. There are many, many great leaders, and you can search for these and do some sort of deeper research into some of the really good examples that you might decide you want to then copycat, or you want to go and look deeper into the techniques that they used. But being aware, remember this word that I've constantly said here, mindful. Being mindful, in other words, having your mind open and ready to reflect and to listen to your own needs, to your own capabilities, your own preferences, and recognizing that you will not get this right every time. Actually embracing failure and saying, look, I came up short there, or it was pretty good, but I know I could get better. I know I could provide more value. I know I could be more of service. And oh, if I had my time again, then I would do it this way. These are all things that you need to welcome rather than beating yourself up and saying, I failed, or it wasn't good enough, or actually worse than that, actually giving that feedback to a colleague, for example. What people need to hear, and what you need to hear, and what I need to hear, is that actually every moment is a learning opportunity, no matter what the outcome. If it worked as a moment, well, great. What did you learn from that? What was it that made it so successful? All the way through to the other end of the spectrum where it absolutely bombed. Okay, what did we learn? What was it that meant it bombed? Do you see the way I'm actually just even describing that in my tone of voice? It's the same approach. Every moment, whatever the outcome, without judgment, is an opportunity to learn and develop resilience. And this is how effective leaders are doing it. A lot of this is going to require clarity. The next thing I want to say really is about the power of clarity. It's about simplifying complexity for yourself, for your teams, for any other stakeholders you are engaged with. And that is why, particularly in marketing, probably in marketing more than most other disciplines, if not all, is we have many, many tools that help us to clarify what we're trying to say, what we're thinking, what we're planning, what we want to do next. Eisenhower matrix, SWOT analysis, etc., etc., etc. Having the power of clarity, stripping out the noise, the judgments, the decision making that didn't work or did work, and then actually just looking at what is the reason behind this. And of course, with Simon Sinek, that core question, why? Jeff Bezos, famous, probably the most famous example of focus and clarity, was putting the customer first. And that is their clarity principle at Amazon. So you look at them as an absolute giant of process management. Yes, but why? It's customer first. Not just paying lip service to it, but actually the power of the clarity of customer first in everything drives then their orientation as an organization. It is at the heart and the core and the founding principle of their success. So what's yours personally, as a team, as a brand, as an organization, and actually as your role collectively in the communities and the environments that you serve? What is your role? What is your why? That's the power of clarity. And that could be something, again, as part of the planning process at this time in the year, that it is important to really re-establish or maybe build from the first time. Maybe that isn't something you've done before. But do this as part of a team. This is all about collaboration. Encourage collaboration both in hybrid, in broader teams, in your local team, and understand the value and importance of diverse perspectives, different levels of seniority, different levels of experience, different backgrounds, different locations, different geographies, different preferences, different principles. All of these things can lead empathy in your teams as you lead this story going forward. Microsoft's transformation, if you like, as they have over recent years, has been through being driven by empathy. It's such an important way that these big, successful organizations figure out how to collaboratively drive things forward. Yes, it is about having great products and services, a powerful brand that stands for something. But within that, it's loading and leading with empathy at every single step. Now, there's a lot of science behind if you want to go deeper into this. These are, to this point, really the key principles about what we're talking through here in terms of the things to maybe factor into a continuous development or personal development plan ready for kind of next year and beyond. If you want to go deeper into some of these things, and of course, this is a great time of year to be kind of doing a little bit more of a deeper research dive. There's a lot of science behind mindfulness and leadership and how they combine. The practice or the principles behind neuroscience, where mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex and things like focus and planning. There's a lot of research in neuroscience. Katie Hart, who works at the college here, is a real practitioner of neuroscience. So follow some of her work if that is going to be useful to you. There's also psychological benefits, obviously, of reduced stress and better relationships. There's a lot of research in those areas. So if you're looking to take people on a journey because you have direct reports and you want to be empathic and you want to give them some resources to work through, do the research in terms of the psychology, the neuroscience, and the overall science behind mindfulness and leadership. It's really, really important to do that. There's a lot of research behind the numbers. If you again need to sort of get maybe a management team on board to get some budget or some time and resource to devote to this stuff, maybe collectively in team meetings. The Journal of Business Research, for example, said leaders practicing mindfulness in their reports showed a 20% increase in team productivity. So there's some great ROI. This is not woolly, fluffy stuff. It's commercial, it's profound, it's scientific, it's really, really important. So do the deeper dive research into this. You can really get obviously with either Google or ChatGPT or Perplexity, you can go a lot deeper than we have the time available to do today, so that you can really understand your version of this, translate some of these messages and some of this thinking into something that's meaningful for you first, but then you can roll it out across your team. That's really, really important. And as part of that kind of rolling out, what I do want to remind you that this is not, even though I've made it possibly sound in those last couple of slides, I've made it sound a little bit like it is a planning team and sort of team meeting kind of activity that you kind of do, and then once you've done it, it's done. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is all about building really good habits, daily habits, in fact, hourly habits even. So daily mindfulness exercises, journaling, the 5-minute breathing exercise, scheduling no meeting blocks for strategic thinking or for just reflecting and grounding yourself and getting some clarity. These are valuable investments of your time. If anybody ever in your team, or if you find yourself saying, oh, this is how I spend my time, do a little course correction there. It should be, this is how I invest my time. Because if we spend our time, we spend something, it's gone. But if we invest our time or invest in something, we expect a return. And that's a really good way of kind of just self-managing and self-positioning this idea of mindful leadership. Investment in this will give a return, multitudes of return. So it's not about spending time looking at this stuff and thinking about and reflecting and planning. It's about investing time, because then just by default, you've set the expectation in yourself, in the process, and in others that there will be a return. And believe me, I've seen so many examples where this actually comes true. And what you're doing here is building a mindful marketing culture. You're setting expectations for intentional communication that is done in a resilient, open, empathic, authentic kind of way. And really what you're doing is you're encouraging a kind of within work-life balance. And this almost then becomes a principle as much as a policy, becomes a way of working as much as a stated aim. This is really encouraging in the moment the opportunity to be mindful, or you could in brackets call it present. And of course, that is one of the same thing. There are many organizations who have built this now strategically into their human resource policies, into the way that they develop people. Google, for example, have a number of different mindfulness initiatives that you can do a deeper dive into. Building a mindful marketing culture, allowing space to breathe, letting people come up to the surface to breathe rather than just literally bashing them down all the time to complete tasks, is a much better way to get those tasks completed. You know it, I know it, we all know it intuitively. So we must stop the practice of rewarding and sort of saying success is all about the amount that we achieve. It is not. It's about the happiness and the fulfillment and the drive to do more in an authentic, mindful way. That is the new measure of success going forward. So, what is this going to do? It's going to mean that we can navigate any crises or any challenges that come. We will be, as mindful leaders, staying calm and solution focused during challenges like this. There are lots of ways that you can do research into crisis management planning, but also interestingly, balance that with mindful decision frameworks. It's lovely when you see these two things kind of joining together, where you think, actually, I did it differently this last time. We've had a challenge like that before. And when we've tried to match it head on and beat it back with a stick, versus actually what we did this time was we took it on the chin, we listened, and then we responded in a calm, authentic, and really competent manner. And wow, look how much more easily that thing was solved. You will see this thing take shape in a really productive, positive, and much more pleasant manner. And for all those around you as well, they will not be seeing these things as crises, even at a small level through to a great big brand crisis. They will not be viewing these things, as you won't, as crises. They're just opportunities to grow and to learn. And I'm not talking, hopefully now you'll understand this, I'm not talking from a position of, oh, everything's positive. Of course it isn't. We're humans. We live in a human world. So therefore there will be challenges, but they're just challenges. They're not problems. There are solutions within every challenge. And that's what mindful leadership positions you to accept and positions you to welcome. So this is exciting, and it'll open up innovation. It'll open up new ways of thinking, connecting mindfulness to creative problem solving, using techniques like design thinking and divergent brainstorming. They're opening up the possibilities to do things differently, to add more value to your business and to your customer and to your living experience as a business professional. What is not to like about getting everybody on board with the word innovation? What is not to like about saying, we're going to do this a little bit differently? Watch or experience or come with me on this journey. This is where we're going. What is not to like about the passion, the feeling, the essence of what's coming through there? So different to what we might have already been doing, which is predictable. It's a little dry. It's a bit boring. We know the outcome, but it's limited. Innovation through mindful thinking as a direct outcome from mindful leadership is exciting, dynamic, and new. And again, that's why I'm feeling that this conversation is at such a great time in the year, because if we can do some of these things and introduce them in, this changes everything for next year, opening up those opportunities to solve some of those challenges that you haven't been able to solve. What a great opportunity. So integrating mindfulness with marketing metrics is going to take the shape when we do this planning. So linking mindful leadership to ROI and KPIs, key performance indicators, having something in here which measures how we did it before versus how we're doing it now. Let's see what the difference is. It's not just about the sales and the end results. It's about how we got to those sales and how we got to those end results. A lovely example, and you'll know this one, Patagonia. I've used it so many times in previous talks. Patagonia's balance of profit and purpose through mindful brand leadership. There's the phrase. That's what we're all seeking, isn't it? The balance of profit and purpose through mindful brand leadership. What a lovely way of doing business. What a lovely way of being and still seeing profit come through, but in the right kind of way. Somebody once told me, isn't this wholesome marketing? Wholesome as in the whole of marketing, but also wholesome as in just decent marketing. And I've always said, thanks Danielle for suggesting that phrase, always give you a little shout out. You know who you are. I always say that's just such a beautiful way of positioning it, because yes, this is wholesome marketing. This is the way that we can overcome barriers, the way that we can move our industry forward in the right kind of way. Addressing skepticism when others in more traditional teams might come to us and say, oh, that's all they're kind of pie in the sky, airy fairy kind of marketing going off again. But if we've aligned this stuff with ROI, if we've aligned this stuff with key performance indicators within our strategy, we're dealing with the people side of things as much as we are with the product and the process, and the profit will follow. So address skepticism. If anybody sort of, meets you head on and says, oh, no, no, we're not going to go down that route. This is how we do business here. Address that with small, consistent mindfulness practices. I've seen this work time and time again. It's infectious. People can't resist it because it's delicious. Why would you not want to be doing business like this? Why would you not want to be leading in this way? John Kabat-Zinn is our final quote here, because John says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And to me, that just sums up beautifully the whole idea that mindful leadership for marketing managers is about embracing the idea of being authentic, being honest, being true, and just actively listening to the opportunities and meeting them at face value with the whole concept of what is this sending me to learn and how can I improve this going forward? So I hope you found that interesting. I hope you found that useful and stimulating to get a few of these ideas to go deeper into the research for as you start to shape your plans for next year. And as we start to build our next season of Cambridge Marketing College webinars, we're going to be going deeper into some of these profound ideas and this profound thinking so that you'll be well prepared and in advance of the competition who are probably just thinking next year is going to be more of the same. But hopefully for you, you'll be thinking about this differently. It'll be exciting and new, and you will be mindfully leading your business forward. So I wish you every success. Have a great Christmas and New Year, and I shall see you next year with the new season.